right, so these are the notes for surface area of rectangular and triangular prisms. If you were able to print off the foldable, we're going to use that. If not, you can do it on notebook paper, and I can always give you a copy of this when you return also, so you have the shapes and figures. So surface area is covering, or like I like to think of wrapping up my box with wrapping paper. It's taking all 6 sides of my rectangular prism and covering them up. So I'm going to show you 2 different ways you can do this. So number 1 is I'm going to look, and I have 6 rectangles. 2 of them are identical. So meaning like this rectangle down here is exactly the same as this rectangle that's up here. So one way I could do this is say, okay, rectangle number 1. Remember, the area formula for a rectangle is just base times height, or length times width. So I would have 6 times 5. And that equals 30. And since I have 2 of them, one on the top and one on the bottom, I'm going to multiply it by 2. Okay, so if I just cover just the top and the bottom of that rectangular prism, that would be my answer. But I'm not going to. I have another rectangle. And this rectangle is right here on the side. And it has another one that matches it over here on this side. So I'm going to find the area of that rectangular area. So again, here's my rectangle. So length times width right there, easy to see, 5 times 12. And that would give me 60. But again, I don't have one of those rectangles. I have 2 of those rectangles. So I'm going to multiply it by 2 and get 120. And again, I don't have just 2 types of rectangles on here. I have 3 types of rectangles. So I have this other one. It's going to overlap a little bit. So I have this blue one in the back, and I have this blue, that same blue one is up front. So now it's getting to the point where it's kind of hard to see. Maybe I'll try outlining it. So this blue one is right here. And it has a matching one in the back. Okay, so we're going to find the area of this rectangle. So one of them is easy to see. It's 6. And then the measure going up is the same as this one. So it's a 6 by 12 rectangle. And 6 times 12 is 72. But again, I don't have that just that one in the front. I also have that one that's in blue in the back. So I'm going to multiply it by 2. And when I do that, I get 144. Now, I want to find the total surface area. So I'm going to add them all together as my last step. So when I add them all together, I get 324. And this is surface area. So I still have square inches squared. Okay, so let's try this one. There's another method that I used to teach when I taught 6th grade, and it's called the smiley face method. And how it works is you take your 3 measures on your rectangular prism, and this method only works for rectangular prisms. But you take your 3 measures and you can write them in any order. So I'm going to say 3, 7, 9. Okay? And it works like this. I'm going to say 3 times 7. I'm going to write it down. 21. 7 times 9 is 63. And then I'm going to do my smile part. 3 times 9 is 27. Okay, so 3 times 7, 21. 7 times 9, 63. 3 times 9, 27. And then my next step is I'm going to add them all together. And I get 111. But that's if I only covered up this part. Here's my 7 by 3. And my bottom part, that's my 9 times 7 that I did. And then this front part right here. This would be that 9 times 3 I did at the end, or 3 times 9. That would only be if I covered up 3 sides. But remember, I have 2 identical rectangles in each rectangular prism. So I'm going to multiply that by 2, and I get 222 meters squared. So that's a rectangular prism. That's the easy ones. Triangle prisms are a lot more difficult. There's just a lot more steps to them. So here's a triangular prism. A triangular prism is made up of two identical triangular bases and then three rectangular faces that surround it. I'm going to start with the triangular bases. I think the number one hardest thing in this entire part is finding the base and the height of the triangle. If you can find the base and the height of the triangle, then it's really not too bad. I'm going to look here, and they didn't do a good job showing you the 90 degrees, but here's my 90 degree mark. So the area formula for a triangle is 1/2 times base times height. So I'm going to fill in what I know, 1/2 times, and then again, I always look for my 90 degree angle. The two lines that make up my 90 degree angle are my base and my height. So that would be this line right here. And if I'm looking for its measurement, I'm going to follow it down, and I see that's 10, so 10 is my base. And then the other line that makes up that 90 degree angle is this dotted one, and that's called the altitude of the triangle. That's how tall it is. That's the height. So times 12. So 1/2 times 10 times 12 would give me, let's see, half of 10 is 5, and 5 times 12 is 60. So that's if I had only covered just this one triangle. It would be 60, but I don't have just one triangle. I have two identical triangles. This triangle down here is exactly the same size. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to multiply it by 2. And I get 120. Now, I'm going to kind of circle this, not because it's my final answer, but I do need to come back to that number eventually. So I've covered both my bases with paper now. My two triangles are covered with paper. Now I got to do my rectangular faces. So there's three rectangular faces. I'm going to start with, there's a rather large one in the back. Okay, so there's this rectangular face. And that has a length of 13. See my 13? And my height of that rectangle right here, that would be 20. So 13 times 20, which give me 260. Okay, but we have three of them. So I have another one. I have one right here. I'm going to put it in yellow so you can see it. Okay, so I have this rectangle right here. And that rectangle, when I do the length, which is 10, and the width, or the height, base and height, right here, is 20. So 10 times 20 equals 200. And then I have one more. I'm going to outline it in red. It's right here. Okay, so that's my last rectangle, this one that I outlined in red. And when I look at the base and height of this, it's 13 times, and then this right here. Now be careful. That 12, remember, was referring to the altitude. So this is not 12. This is actually 20. It's the same for all of the heights. And I already did that one, so I know it's 260. So here's what I've done. This 120 covers my two triangular bases that I colored in orange. These three numbers deal with my three rectangular faces, one that I did in stripes, one that I colored in yellow, one that I outlined in red. Now, if I want to find the total surface area, I got to add everything together. So that's my three triangular faces plus, my three rectangular faces and my two triangular bases. So that's where that 120 will come back into play. I need to add that to it. When I do that, you should get 840 feet squared. Okay, let's try it one more time. So I'm going to start with my triangles. I know it's 1/2 times base times height. I'll put the 90 degree in here for you since they didn't. So I'm going to start with my triangular bases. And they're exactly the same. I'm going to say 1/2 times. Okay, here's my 90 degree mark. I know this line and this line, this dotted line, make up my 90-degree angle. It's formed by this line and this line. So I have a base of 8, and my height or altitude, that's that little dotted line, but I don't see a measure for it. But if I look over here, there's a measure for it. I know it's 3. So I know one triangle would be worth, let's see, half of 8 is 4, and 4 times 3 is 12. But there's not one triangle, there's 2 identical triangles. So I'm going to multiply it by 2 and get 24. Okay? I'm going to come back to that number, remember. Now there's 3 rectangular faces. So I'm going to do this one first. Okay. So I have a rectangle right here. Okay, so rectangle number 1. I have this side right here, that's 15, times this side going up here, that's 5. So 15 times 5 rectangle, and that's a 75. Okay, I have a second rectangle. I'm going to outline it in red, and that's right here. Okay, so that's a rectangle. It kind of looks like a parallelogram because it's on a slant, but it's really a rectangle. Okay, so I'm going to do base times height. So along this bottom line, I don't see a measure for it, but I know it's exactly the same as this. The opposite sides of a rectangle are congruent. So 15 times, and then this red part, oh, that has a measure of 5. Oh, same rectangle as before, 75. And then there's a rectangle that's at the bottom. I'm going to highlight it in yellow. Okay, so there's this rectangle right here at the bottom. Okay, my third rectangle. And this rectangle, the bottom of it is right here. So 8 times, going up here, 15. And that's going to give me 120. Remember, my last step is to find the total bases all together. So I'm going to say 24, or my 3 rectangular faces plus my 2 triangular bases. I'm going to bring that number down. I'm going to add them all up. When I do, I should get 294. 294 centimeters squared. So that's your notes for surface area of prisms. Now go ahead and try your homework.